When you think about what it means to be wealthy, what comes to mind? Probably mansions, supercars, huge bank accounts, right? But what if I told you that the real secret to building wealth has almost nothing to do with your salary or even how smart you are? Okay, let's get into this, because the psychology of money is packed with these wild paradoxes that totally flip what we think we know on its head. Just look at these two guys. On one side, you've got Ronald Reed. He was a janitor and a gas station attendant his whole life. On the other, Richard Foscone, a Harvard-educated, high-flying executive at Merrill Lynch. Now, one of them saved every penny he could, patiently invested in solid companies, and quietly built up an $8 million fortune. The other, he borrowed a ton of money to live this huge, extravagant lifestyle and then lost everything in the 2008 financial crisis. The janitor ended up a philanthropist. The executive went bankrupt. I mean, how does that even happen?
Well, that story perfectly captures the big idea we're exploring today. Getting good with money isn't really a hard science. It's actually a soft skill. It's less about the numbers on a spreadsheet and so much more about how you behave. It's way more about psychology than it is about math.
So to really get our heads around this, we first need to kind of tear down and rebuild our whole definition of wealth, because it's a way richer concept than just, making a lot of money. This gets us to a completely different way of thinking. See, real wealth creation isn't just about piling up cash, which you can do that in some pretty destructive ways. It's about actually contributing something, making things better, building things. It's about creating real value, not just grabbing a bigger slice of the pie for yourself. And you can think about that value in 4 key areas. Now, financial capital, that's the one we all focus on. But your human capital, your skills, your knowledge, your health, and your social capital, your network, your reputation, the trust people have in you, those are just as important, if not more so. True wealth is really about having plenty in all 4 of these buckets. And at the end of the day, what's the point of building wealth in all these different forms? It really boils down to one single thing: freedom. It's the ability to wake up in the morning and say, I can do whatever I want today. That control over your own time, that is the absolute best return you will ever get on your money. And that brings us to a really crucial distinction here. Being rich is not the same thing as being wealthy. Rich is about your current income. It's loud, it's flashy, it's the $100,000 car in the driveway. But wealth is the income you didn't spend. It's the money you saved and invested. It's invisible. It's the fancy car you didn't buy. Wealth is what you don't see, and that's what buys you the freedom we were just talking about. Now, understanding that difference between being rich and being truly wealthy, well, that requires us to look inward. Because the financial choices we make aren't just random. They're deeply personal, and they're shaped by forces we almost never stop to think about. Just think about this for a minute. The way you view risk and reward and savings, it's not based on some textbook. It's almost entirely based on your own tiny, specific slice of life experience. Something that seems completely crazy to you might make perfect sense to someone else just because they grew up in a different place or a different time or with different parents. I mean, just look at these charts. If you were born in 1970, the stock market went up almost 10 times over during your teens and 20s. You learned that stocks are these incredible wealth-building machines. But if you were born in 1950, the market basically went nowhere for you. You learned to be skeptical. The same thing is true for inflation. Those early experiences create these deep-seated beliefs that just stick with us for our entire lives. Which, of course, brings up one of the oldest questions in the book. If we all see money through such different lenses, can it really make any of us happy? Well, it turns out the answer is kind of complicated. Some really interesting recent research shows that for people earning less than about $100,000 a year, more money is amazing at reducing misery. It fixes problems, it relieves stress. But once you get above that line, something fascinating happens. More money doesn't really make you any less sad, but it does dramatically increase your potential for moments of peak happiness, those really intense, joyful experiences. So, here's the key takeaway. Money gives you options. It builds a buffer against despair, and once your basic needs are covered, it gives you the resources and the freedom to build a life with more control, better relationships, and more of those amazing, joyful moments. And all of this leads us to our final and maybe the most important section. If money's power changes as you get more of it, then there has to be a point where you can just step off the hamster wheel of always wanting more. This is the skill of finding your enough.
So, what do you think is the single hardest financial skill to master? It's not picking the right stocks, it's not timing the market. It's something way, way more personal.
There's this great story that just gets right to the heart of it. The writers Kurt Vonnegut and Joseph Heller are at a fancy party thrown by some billionaire hedge fund manager. And Vonnegut leans over and points out that their host, the billionaire, made more money in a single day than Joseph Heller had earned from his massively famous novel, Catch-22, in its entire history.
And Heller's response is just perfect. He says, "Yes, but I have something he will never have: enough." That one little word, that might just be the most powerful concept in all of finance.
Enough is the skill of getting the goalpost to stop moving. It's what stops you from constantly comparing yourself to others, which is the very thing that pushes people to take bigger and crazier risks, often with terrible results. It's the entire difference between Ronald Reed, the janitor, and Richard Fuscone, the executive. Because at the end of the day, being good with money isn't about who has the most. It's about having the ability to build a life full of meaning and dignity, completely on your own terms. It's having the resources and the wisdom to live the life you actually want to live. And so, that leaves us with the last question, and it's the one that only you can answer. It's not about some number in a bank account. It's about your freedom. It's about your time. It's about your happiness. So take a second and really ask yourself, what does enough actually look like for you?